The cold metal of a gun barrel presses against the back of your head, and it's the only thing that makes you feel alive in a dank basement on the outskirts of Ciudad Juárez. You smell cheap cigarettes and burnt rubber as beads of sweat trickle down your spine, catching in the seams of your dirty t-shirt. Your pulse is a heavy hammer pounding the anvil of your ribs, but you force yourself to breathe evenly, just like they taught you in boot camp, where you were kicked out for excessive initiative. A voice from the darkness, hoarse and emotionless, asks if you're ready to pull the trigger for those who don't ask questions. A man kneels before you, a bag over his head, his sobs barely audible through the thick fabric, and in that moment, the world narrows to the point where your finger touches the trigger. You don't think about morality. You don't think about the consequences. You only think that your life is worth less than a bullet in the chamber if you falter now. The shot deafens, the flash blinds you momentarily, and a heavy body falls forward, showering your boots with warmth that quickly cools on the concrete floor. The hand that held the gun to the back of your head now rests on your shoulder, and you realize you've passed the first interview of your new life. You're driven in the back of a pickup truck through dusty streets where the shadows seem longer and more ominous than anywhere else on Earth. You have $2,000 in cash in your pocket, the amount your father earned in a year on the coffee plantations, and the weight of it warms you more than the midday sun. Your task for the next week is simple: observe, memorize, and become invisible to the world around you. You learn to read the city not by road signs, but by the graffiti on the walls, the number of antennas on the roofs, and the way the street vendors fall silent when a black SUV with tinted windows passes. You are no longer a person, but an instrument honed to perform surgical operations on the body of a rotting metropolis. Your new mentors, men without names, with eyes like broken glass, teach you the tactics of urban warfare, where the first shot must be the last. You spend hours disassembling and reassembling an AR-15 rifle in complete darkness until your fingers bleed, but you feel no pain, only a cold determination to become the best at this craft. Your first serious assignment arrives at 3 in the afternoon, when the city is melting in the heat. You're perched on the back of a motorcycle, clutching an automatic pistol with an extended magazine, your heart pounding in time with the roar of the souped-up engine. The target is the armored sedan of a local official who's decided he can dictate terms to those who own the night. You feel a surge of adrenaline wash away any remaining fear, transforming your perception into a pinpoint aim. As the motorcycle aligns with the target, you work mechanically. 2 shots into the glass to create a web of cracks, then 5 more at a single point until the barrier gives way. You see the terror in your target's eyes a split second before their world turns to red mist, and in that moment, you feel the terrifying clarity of power over someone else's fate. You walk through a maze of alleys, changing transport 3 times in 10 minutes, and in the evening, counting a wad of $100 bills, you catch yourself for the first time thinking that human life has a very specific, tangible equivalent in paper. Soon you cease to be just an executor and become what they call a ghost. You are entrusted with planning operations, sitting in air-conditioned rooms where city maps with competitors' zones of influence are hung on the walls. Your boots are no longer covered in dust. They are polished to a shine, and beneath your expensive jacket lies not only a holster, but also an icy emptiness. You manage a group of 10 people, as ambitious and desperate as you were just a few months ago. You teach them that pity is a design flaw that leads to death, and you see in their eyes a reflection of your own descent into the abyss. The trust of your boss becomes your greatest shield, but you know this shield is made of ice, which begins to melt under the rays of paranoia. You can no longer sleep without pills, because in the silence of your luxurious villa, you hear the screams of those whose names you long ago erased from your memory. You book your car and hire security to protect you from your own security, knowing that in this hierarchy, everyone is looking at your back as a target. Your power grows along with the number of zeros in your offshore accounts, but the world around you begins to shrink to the size of a fortified bunker. You control supply chains that ship tons of goods across borders. You order the assassination of entire families to protect the cartel's interests, and you do it with the same ease as signing a restaurant bill. Corruption becomes your natural state. You know the value of every police captain and every judge in this state, and this awareness fills you with a sense of divine omnipotence. But this feeling is deceptive. You notice how your boss begins to eye you with suspicion, how his questions become increasingly ambiguous, and his smiles ever colder. You realize that you have become too effective, too visible, and too informed. In a world where the only law is the survival of the fittest, you have transformed from a valuable asset into a potential threat that must be neutralized before it can act. Emotional numbness now gives way to a sharp, pulsating paranoia that never leaves you for a second. You change your sleeping quarters every night. You don't eat food that hasn't been prepared in front of you, and you don't even trust your own shadow. Your hands, once rock hard, now tremble slightly as you pour yourself a whiskey at 4 a.m. while watching the security cameras. You see movement in the bushes and reach for your weapon, but it's just a stray cat. Your mind is playing tricks on you, turning every rustle into a harbinger of imminent doom. You realize that the strategy that brought you to the top is now turning against you. You yourself taught your subordinates how to bypass security systems and how to strike at the most vulnerable moment. Isolation becomes absolute. Your family are ghosts from a past life. Your friends are people you yourself ordered buried in unmarked graves in the desert. You sit at the head of the table in the empty hall of your fortress, surrounded by 10-meter-high walls and electrified barbed wire. In front of you lie profit reports that no longer matter, and the golden pistol your boss gave you for your 30th birthday, a gift that now seems like an exquisite mockery. You hear the distant hum of a helicopter and don't know if it's your people or those who have come for your head. The power you so coveted has turned out not to be a throne, but a sealed chamber where the air grows thinner with every breath. You understand that the tactics of elite death squads are perfect. They leave no chance, even for those who created them. You've reached the pinnacle of a career that thousands of poor guys on the streets dream of, but you stand there all alone, staring down the barrel of your own future. By the time you become the owner of an empire, you will have no one to trust, and the silence in your palace will be the loudest sentence you've ever heard.